Good evening and welcome back to our post-game analysis of the first of the two running mate debates we will have this evening. My name is Larry Medowo. I am sitting here with a very distinguished panel. Thank you for staying with me, Simui Werunga, Miguna, Daisy Mdan, Dr. Alex Awiti. And joining us is Nerima Wako, Executive Director of the Siasa Place. You try and get young people involved in politics. Yeah. The man the whole country will be talking about tomorrow is Eliud Mudiora Kariara, the only running mate who was here at the start of the debate, and Debates Media Limited made the decision to go ahead with the debate with that one candidate, and he has told people to vote for his candidate, Dr. Japhet Kavinga Kaluyu, who he says is a man of action. And in fact, he said in one of his most outstanding statements from the entire period he was speaking to Sophia and Fred was, don't vote for the others. Fagia Wote. I want to get quick reaction, starting with the lady who was not on the panel before. You asked the question, you're now back on our panel. We're very excited. Nerima, what did you think?
I thought he was very brave. Honestly, I think that he's going to be a hero to many young people. He is breaking barriers that we thought were not possible. And I commend him for being on that panel alone. It was disappointing not to see other candidates. This is their opportunity to talk to the populace, and they threw it away. So for me, I say it's a plus. It's great to see young people such as those in such positions. Miguna,
what did you think of the only man to show up on that stage?
I also agree that it was brave. It was the right thing to do. He showed statesmanship. He was able to audition to Kenyans. And I believe that at the end of the day, Dr. Kaluyu and Mr. Kariara will pick up quite a lot of votes, just on the basis that they were able to show up and face Kenyans and tell us what they stand for. It is unfortunate that my friend Ekuru kept his deputy away.
Ekuru Court is here, by the way. He's right, literally steps away from here. He and his deputy are here.
And I think that they should have come and demonstrated that they are better than either the president and his deputy or the NASA presidential candidate and their deputy, whom I hope will show up. So I think they tried.
Ekuru Court has just told us minutes ago before we came back on that you guys wanted the circus and you've had the circus.
Oh, really? I think that, you know, they're the ones who've lost out.
Yeah.
They've lost a great opportunity, and I think this Kariara has done well. He has shown himself to be an honorable man, willing to play by the rules and not afraid, you know, to take the bull by the horn. So for me, this is something new. Those who have missed out, I can see, you know, they've put their threats, you know, to action that they are going to turn up. Well, it is their loss, and I think as they accuse others of grandstanding, this time their grandstanding has fallen flat on its face, and are the lesser for it.
So the first candidate to arrive here was Miriam Mutua, accompanied by Professor Michael Wainaina, who's the presidential candidate. And Miriam Mutua and Professor Wainaina had what you'd call a grand entrance. There it is. That's what happened. And they made for the auditorium. They were blocked from accessing the auditorium. They are not inside there because the debate was already underway. So after Miriam Mutua, you see him there with Professor Michael Wainaina, who is the...
And Dr. Kaluyu is behind.
And Dr. Kaluyu Kavinga is behind there.
They drove in one car.
They drove in one car. There was a bit of a scene when they came in. And then, since then, we've had other candidates come in, including Dr. Ekuru Aukot and his running mate. They're all trying to access the auditorium, and they have been blocked from doing so because the next debate we're expecting is at 8 p.m. with Kalonzo Musyoka and William Ruto. Dr. Awiti, what do you think?
I think this is exactly what the country must say no to.
Yes.
Yeah. This is arrogant. It is hubris. It is unprecedented. It is uncalled for. But having said that, I think Kariara is my hero tonight. This is the face of the future. This is the face of Kenya post-2022. And I think, as Nerima said, a lot of young people are looking at this young man today and saying, oh my God, me too. Yes, I can do it too. And I must say, I must commend Dr. Kaluyu, because he's been a sportsman. He's played by the rules. He got his candidate on the podium when all the other guys refused to do that. And I really think that this is a teachable moment in our democracy and in trying to reinstate the rule of law and due process. And just basic civility and decorum. Play by the rules. Just show up. And as Miguna said, you had the whole country watching for you to come and say why you are the alternative leadership, why you will be the difference. And they don't show up. Then they come back here and say that they served as the suckers. How arrogant and disrespectful is that?
Is he a candidate or a circus owner?
A clown.
he told us, you wanted a circus, Dr. Ikuru Okot, you have a circus.
And he's the clown.
I think...
before you come in, Simiyu, I'm looking at some of the feedback right now on #DebatesKE. Dominic Wambua says this young man is young, bold, and intellectually sober. And the country has had a chance to see that. Eric Onchonga says the young guy was brilliant. Now I understand why the others chickened out. Cliff Njora Njuguna says this is the beginning of an amazing journey for you, such a realistic individual. Simiyu.
Yeah, I think, one, I have no idea why these fellows refuse to bring their running mates, then they show up.
More of them are still coming in. I can see another one of the running mates coming in.
So I'm surprised how insidious, not even arrogant, they are to the people of this country.
Really?
And I think this country, this kind of characters, and with nothing personal, do not deserve to lead anybody in this country. Because if this is how they are going to behave when they are minority candidates,
And they have no power.
and they have no power, and they are behaving this way, so you can imagine if, God forbid, one of them can have space to lead this country, what they can go to this country. I think God is, I'm religious, so God knows what is happening. And this young man, I can assure you, if he doesn't get himself out of politics, is a man to watch. You could see he spoke, he was very sober, he was very measured, and it's like it was a textbook thing. So if he continues playing what he's doing now, I think he has a future in politics, and probably these are the people we are saying this country needs to have them, people who are sober, who are not corrupted yet, and therefore we need them in the future. At our age, some of us are looking at them and people who can be brought up. But when you look at the circles of these presidential candidates, and they have the audacity to walk into this auditorium at this time, when they refuse to send their own deputies, Larry, I think these are jokers. And I'm happy the media took the bluff and played it.
Yeah.
You know? And who is looking more foolish? Is it the media?
Or is it them?
Is it them? So the jury is out there to the Kenyan people to know who between the media and these fellows has done the right thing.
You work with a lot of young people and trying to get them engaged in politics. And here's an example of the kind of people you're trying to get involved, right, Nerima? Simply one boy says, I give it to Mudiora Karriara. He kept time, his commitment, and has made a mark in my mind. If not now, next time.
Yeah, I think what he's done, like I said, is rewrite history for young people, because here we are feeling like we don't have much choice to select from, and we had a new option today. Even though more than likely they might not win, there's a good chance he's going to receive some votes because of how he spoke today, because people now know him. What I'm curious to know is, why are the candidates finding this forum now important? Why wasn't it important before? Perhaps was it when they saw him speak and now they realize, man, we lost an opportunity, now we need to send our candidates there. It looks very shoddy, it looks very last minute, it looks so disorganized, and that's the thing that we're trying to tell young people we don't want. We've been having it for a long time. We need a fresh change, we need new faces, and he has come and shown us this is it. I'm here. The option exists. So I think that it's a new day for our country when it comes to politics. What we're saying is there are new names to be reshuffled. We don't have to worry about seeing nominations coming in and seeing the same old faces, the same old names. Now we can look at young people who are intelligent and capable of leading this country.
I want to read some of the comments right now on #DebatesKE just to get a sense of what you thought of Karriara showing up and being the only candidate on that stage. This is DJ Slim. The other candidates are arrogant. What time are they arriving, he says. Njihia Kelvin, leave Ekuru arrogance. That shows the caliber of the so-called alternatives. This other one is Robin says, Karriara is my hero tonight. G_Ikuru, I was so undecided for the presidential candidate, but now I have seen the kind of leader I want. Which speaks to the fact that he had the entire country watching. It was just him alone. Nobody to interrupt.
Prime time.
On prime time on all the stations. So he introduced an interesting topic, which is, he says, don't vote for any of them. Fagia wote. Which is something that has been a rallying call on Twitter, on social media, that the current leadership has failed and you should get rid of all of them and bring a new one. And he brought it now to this national stage and told Kenyans, don't vote for the other people, Fagia Wote. Miguna, what did you think?
I think it was refreshing. The only thing it denied us is the opportunity to interrogate all of them together and be able to contrast. But really, the competitors cannot complain that they did not have an opportunity to be here. And they clearly cannot blame the media for not having invited them. They were all invited. They were all given equal opportunity. Some of them were aggrieved. They went to court. They lost. And there is no reason, there is no justified reason not to have been here. More importantly, it is now going to be extremely difficult for any of the presidential candidates to convince Kenyans that they are better than President Uhuru Kenyatta, who has also said that his deputy is not coming, or they are better than Raila Odinga, who also made a statement that if William Ruto is not coming, Kalonzo Musyoka is not coming. So they left the field wide open for Karriara, and I think he ran with it. Now, Kenyans have, as I said, this is going to be a defining moment, a defining election. And I think Kenyans now need to be able to demonstrate that they are capable of choosing their own leaders and that nobody owns them. There is nothing wrong with a young man. If he's wearing a suit, he certainly can be a vice president. In fact, if you look at some of the cabinet ministers that were appointed shortly after independence, Tom Mboya was in his 20s. This young man is older than Tom Mboya, when Tom Mboya was a major Pan-African leader in Africa. If you compare him to Musalia Mudavadi, when Moi plucked Musalia Mudavadi shortly after graduating from the University of Nairobi, he was in his 20s too, and he was made a cabinet minister. I can go on and on. So nobody was born a leader. This man seized the moment, and I think that I say congratulations to him, bravo.
Absolutely.
Dr. Wita, I want to bring out something he said about the banking sector. He says the banking sector, banks used to make pornographic profits. And he raised the issue with that. Just talking about
that
maybe...
sounds like Miguna's language.
No, I don't say things like that. I'm very scientific.
He was concerned about, obviously talking about the interest rate caps and the changes therein, but pornographic profits, one as a term to use there, supernormal profits, is interesting. But talking about the need for more regulation to make sure that services, financial services are available to ordinary citizens.
No, I think, just on that, I think he made several very substantive points about the fiscal management of the country.
Yes.
You may not agree with some of them, but I think you appreciate the effort, the intellectual activity around thinking around those issues. He talked about mobilizing domestic revenue.
Yes.
And I think it goes at the heart of the banking sector because they're mopping up all the revenue through the interest rates that they rake from us.
Right.
He talked about expanding the tax base. He talked about cutting taxes. He talked about, Miguna and I were laughing when he talked about reducing sales tax from 16% to 4%.
To 3%.
Yes.
To 4%. He talked about stemming runaway external debt. So I think he's really onto something. And I think what you must give them is, and I think it's exactly the point we've been talking about. This moment, this debate today was not about the second-tier candidates and the front candidates. It was about a conversation with Kenyans on the issues that they want to put on the table. And the boy, the gentleman just nailed them. I'm sorry to call him a boy. He just nailed the questions. It's around the economy, opportunity and youth, taming runaway debt, and talking about jobs and
Creation.
training and mentorship so that young people can ascend to positions of wages that don't pay starvation salaries.
Right.
So I think really that's where we ought to go. He basically brought out the issues, and I think that's what debates are about: competing visions for our country. You may not agree with this, with their points, and that's why Miguna says they denied us an opportunity to then look at his vision vis-a-vis the other candidates. But on the face of it, as panelists, we may overreach ourselves by criticizing.
Right.
But that's not the point. The point that we were supposed to address here today is which visions and what is the extent of differentiation, and therefore what should Kenyans start looking out for come August 8th.
So the question here, Daisy, is not so much as we won't even discuss what the substance he offered or not, just by the fact of him showing up, there's so much goodwill that has been garnered. For instance, Harrison Mwale asks, why should we give jobs to people who don't show up for the job interview?
Who don't want to.
I mean, I think
and now we know his name, but we don't know the others.
Absolutely. We had said we didn't know the names, but
now we know this one name.
Yes, we do. And I think I want to agree with Alex on the fact that he has nailed the issues. He may not have gone in depth into the issues that are affecting Kenyans, but giving people something to think about, because that is one of the things that these rallies and the campaign mobilization doesn't really get people to start beginning to think about Kenya, about how people's leadership or whatever is being offered by the leaders and the political parties, how it affects their lives. And one of the issues when he brings about, I think the word maybe that he was looking for were the obscene profits that are made by the we get the meaning. Yes, the obscene profits that have been made, by the banks. And if you recall, the entry of Equity Bank brought into the sector those that are considered the unbanked, the ordinary mwananchi, to bring them into some kind of fiscal regiments where they can actually begin to think beyond the hand-to-mouth existence, so that we can begin to build a saving culture and begin to expand even that tax bracket, So he has touched on several issues. Yes, we will not be able to interrogate them against the other candidates because we simply do not know what they stand for.
Right.
But I do think that now Kenyans can begin to interrogate what leadership should be addressing in terms of how is your leadership going to affect my life,
all right.
So that it's about interests, so that it goes beyond just tribal interests. It goes just beyond we won, you lost. It's about how is this leadership going to transform my life and avail to me opportunities beyond just the grandstanding.
Okay, Simiyu, before we go to the break.
Yes, I think the fact that we are discussing this young man speaks for everything. The rest can come and banty around and tell us the suckers. But you see, we are discussing this young man. The country is discussing this young man. The opportunity he took to tell us what they believe in as a candidate and a deputy has already made many Kenyans now know who this man is. And like you are saying, Awiti, he spoke to very crucial issues in this country.
Yes.
The processes of achieving them could be different and not wanting in some spaces, but at least he has touched, and this tells you the intellectual capacity of this young man and his team, that they could actually go into the core issues that are affecting this country and talk about them.
Okay.
To me, that is a score.
That is a score. He's just since tweeted Karriera Mudiora. I guess we're going to need to be following him now that everybody knows him. At Karriera Mudiora is his Twitter. Thank you, Kenya, for giving us the platform to present our vision for you. Vote for change, vote for Dr. Kaluyu and I. Thank you.
Wonderful.
That's very gracious.
Very honorable.
Listen, we have to take a really quick break right now. We're coming back with more of the post-game analysis, I guess, for the first debate and pre-game analysis for the next debate, which will now take place in 29 minutes. We expect Deputy President William Ruto and NASA Deputy Presidential candidate or running mate, if you like, Kalonzo Musyoka. The other candidates who have since arrived at the scene at the Catholic University of East Africa will not be allowed to participate in that debate because that debate just ended. This 8 p.m. debate will be moderated by Hussein Mohammed. Right now, though, a quick break.
Shooting yourself.
Today by saying thank you to Mrs. Mary. I had stage fright. She helped me overcome that fear. She needs our support.
Angalia. When we come together, great things happen.
Welcome back. This is the pre-game analysis of the second running mates debate expected at 8 p.m. Why are you laughing when I say pre-game analysis? There's a big game at 8 o'clock. Before then, we've got to prepare people for it.
Yes.
In this case, between William Ruto, the Deputy President, and the former Vice President, Kalonzo Musyoka. If they show up, what are you expecting? Okay, Nerima, go for it.
I hope I'm expecting to hear how they're going to solve issues. I'm hoping to hear more about their manifestos and less about attacking one another and why they are better than the other. So this time, I'm hoping to hear issues, how you're going to solve them, how you're going to deal with the youth, and I'm willing to listen to the economic issues that we have, the water issues that we have now in Nairobi, cholera. I mean, that's what I'm looking for.
What are the young people of this country interested in? What are the issues for them in this election?
I mean, the first one just has to be employment. It's always been an issue, and it's going to continue being an issue until our leaders take us seriously. And nextly, it has to be health. We've been through a doctor strike. We've been through a nurses strike. We can't quite say whether our hospitals have sufficient medication for young people. And affordability. Can a young person afford it? If you don't have a job, how do you have health care? Those things are synonymous to one another. So those are the things. And corruption. How are you going to deal with corruption? It is too expensive for us to continue to watch corruption increase and nothing is being done about it. I keep saying it's like filling a glass of water that has a hole. If you keep putting money or water into your glass and it has a hole, it will keep pouring water. So those are the issues that we need to solve.
The last running mate on that stage, the only one who showed up, Eliud Mudiora Kariara, said Jubilee is the most corrupt government ever, and that is certainly going to come up in this debate.
I don't know if it's the most corrupt government ever. But
I think it's borrowing from another person, John Githongo, who has also famously said that.
I think corruption is an issue. It is a real issue. It is not just at the national level. We are seeing corruption everywhere. It is a problem. And I think one of the things that really we need to hear beyond just the usual platitudes is how are we going to deal with corruption? How is the leadership going to deal with corruption? Issues of conflict of interest, where literally we have people who go into leadership literally to make money, and I like the example, that I will refer to here, Miguna, who is an aspirant for governor, when he posed a question to one of the candidates, where you look at people who have been employees, only ever been employees, and they are billionaires. We have people in this country who are leaders who cannot explain the source of their wealth. Because if we're talking about unemployment, and we have serious unemployment in Kenya, if these people are honest in their endeavors and honest in the way they have made their money, then they really ought to share these initiatives with Kenyans so that people come out of this poverty and people become more gainfully employed. The other thing that I think we really need to hear is how we are going to ensure the productivity of this country. Because as Kenya, we are not producing. When you look at the industries, so many industries have collapsed in Kenya. We have growing unemployment. We have many companies that are falling. We have the cost of doing business in Kenya has become so high that many companies are opting to leave the region, you know, despite the comparative advantage we have as a country, as a premier gateway, still as the strongest economy in the region, but still we find that it is not engendering growth, you know, the kind of growth that actually creates employment. So I would want to hear from our leaders, you know, how are they going to ensure productivity?
Okay.
On the issue of food security, one of the things I think that we really need an answer from the Jubilee administration, and I would hope that the Deputy President would respond to this, is the commitments they made in their manifesto in 2013, where irrigation, we were no longer going to be a rain-fed country, that we would actually invest in irrigation, which they did heavily, because if you look at the budget since 2013, the country has invested over 10 billion shillings in irrigation, and at the end of the day, we are now faced with severe food shortage, coupled with of course, the armyworm infestation, and actually we're facing worse times ahead.
Okay.
How are they going to address these issues beyond just telling us again that we are going to inject more money into irrigation? Remember that we are heavily subsidized. We have subsidized farmers' seed, fertilizer. Why haven't we seen the necessary growth? What is the problem? How are they going to address that issue? Among many others, of course, I will not fail to mention the issue of the 2/3 gender principle,
which failed to pass in Parliament repeatedly.
But on this one, I would expect both NASA and Jubilee to answer, because it is a joint responsibility. It is Parliament that failed, and both of them sit in the House. And what are we going to do, seeing as we actually have a possible constitutional crisis that we will be facing post-election because they do not have the cover of the law?
All right. And on matters national security and defense, Simiyu Werunga, today President Kenyatta has ordered the police to kill and bury Al-Shabaab militants wherever they're to be found. There's a major operation going on in Lamu after the latest attacks. So this will obviously be center stage, the national security locally, but also should we remain in Somalia? What do you expect if these two candidates were to debate on the stage?
I think we'll be listening to the current president to tell us what they've achieved so far in terms of engaging our troops in Somalia. Of course, it was done under President Kibaki, but we needed to be told in quantifiable terms what the country has gained by our continued stay in Somalia. We understand our military is now under AMISOM, but we still have the capacity as a country to come up with unilateral decisions that should be effectively utilized for our own people in this country. And therefore, I'll expect Jubilee to tell us, so far, this is what we've achieved, this is what we've not achieved, this is what we are doing. And our continued stay in Somalia will allow us as a country to do ABCD.
Because Somalia is a major point of divergence.
Yes.
NASA wants to pull out of Somalia, Jubilee wants to remain there.
You know, NASA, as much as they might have a point in what they are saying, Kenyan Defense Forces are no longer unilaterally in Somalia. They are under AMISOM. And therefore, the process of removing our military in Somalia must go through the AMISOM route, the African Union, the United Nations. It's a complex situation. But as a country, we also have the capacity to unilaterally decide that we are pulling out the way we did in South Sudan after our general was removed.
Right.
But I think the issue here is probably we need to start thinking on how to pull out our forces in phases.
Not all at once.
Not all at once.
Because there seems to be, the suggestion here seems to be that if NASA wins on day one, they're going to
I don't
order for the withdrawal of Kenyan troops from Somalia.
I don't think that will achieve, but yes, to some extent, to some point now, I'm also trying to imagine that if we can start pulling our troops in phases, so that at some point we bring them to the border, and ensure that we can take care of our own security problems, as opposed to what we are doing in Kismayu, and yet the spillover is within the country. So that's one. But internally also we need to start asking them, this security sector reform process, what have we achieved? We were supposed to reform the security sector, the police, the prisons department, the judiciary, means of finance. That is the sector. We call it the security sector area. We want to ask them, what have you done so far in terms of the pillars that were created under the reform process? So we are auditing their performance as Jubilee and asking NASA to tell us in a very detailed manner the mechanisms they are going to put in place to achieve the security sector reform.
Okay.
Yes.
Miguna. William Ruto and Kalonzo Musyoka on one stage. In 27 minutes, what are you expecting? What would you want them to address?
Well, I agree with my friend that for a serving administration, a serving government, the first thing you want to ask is, you had a manifesto in 2013 and you purported to have a plan. We elected you. You have been in power for 5 years. What is your scorecard? And we go on corruption. We go on health. We go on education. We go on infrastructure. We go on devolution. Devolution of power, devolution of services. We go on extrajudicial killings, which is human rights. We go on every single thing that matters to Kenyans. And then we ask, if this is your scorecard, so assuming that on corruption they achieved 30% over, 30 over 100, then we have to say, why should we elect you if this is your scorecard? Where is the concrete evidence that you will do a better job if we allowed you to govern for 5 more years? Then we look at their manifesto as of now and compare it to what it was before and say, you've added more, but you didn't achieve all of the things that you promised. Why should we give you another chance? When we go to NASA, the question we will be asking Kalonzo Musyoka is this. You say that Jubilee is the most corrupt administration ever in Kenya. That's a plain lie. Because the most corrupt administration ever was Daniel Arap Moi's administration. In my experience, that was the most corrupt. And that is the administration that gave birth to the current leaders. Kalonzo Musyoka, Uhuru Kenyatta, even Raila Odinga, because he was also part of KANU to some extent. And we asked them, so why would you want us to trust you that you are different from them, yet your umbilical cord is the same? Your DNA is the same. The person who taught you politics is the same. The way you operate as parties is the same. Now, when we look at the characters in both NASA and Jubilee, they are also the same. Jimmy Wanjigi funded Jubilee in 2013. Now Jimmy Wanjigi is funding NASA in 2013.
I want to put allegedly on both of those because we don't know for sure.
No, no. It goes without saying that Jimmy Wanjigi is in NASA and he was in Jubilee in 2013.
Right.
And it goes without saying that there have been unrefuted reports which are publicly available with respect to Jimmy Wanjigi's involvement in NASA vis-a-vis his involvement in 2013. Then, of course, there are people in NASA like Wetangula, like Amos Wako, like the rest, who have had a long history, not just of perpetuating the culture of impunity, but allegations, serious allegations of corruption. Okay. Then you compare that to Jubilee, and then you ask, where is the difference?
Okay. Dr. Awiti, what is your expectation for this debate between William Ruto and Kalonzo Musyoka?
I think, let me say this. First, the reluctance to show up at this forum is exactly the issues Miguna is raising. This is no place for waffle.
Miguna and Simi, you are having a separate meeting. I should be like my class teacher. Tell us what is so funny about it. Yes, Dr. Awiti.
This debate is not about waffling. It's about substantive differences, substantive positions, substantive alternative proposals for how this country is going to be governed. And these issues must be around jobs and opportunity. What are the competing visions there? What has Jubilee achieved? They promised 1 million jobs a year. They have only delivered, they claim they've done 800,000 jobs per year. It's not true. Because, Mama Mboga creates her own job. How many jobs have been created in the formal economy that are as a result of ease of doing business, which the government talks about? Can we count that? They're not more than 100,000 jobs every year. The next one is the debt overhang in this country. It is getting phenomenal. It is getting out of control. The other one is shared prosperity. Growth is stuck at the top, and there's no such a thing as trickle down. How will they address these issues? The other one is Project Kenya. We are an increasingly divided, fragmented country. We are not one nation. What is the plan to stitch this together and create a tapestry of a unified society? And then making real the promise of devolution. Is devolution working? Or are governors flying out on their own and basically making all the money that they can? But what is interesting is that the burden is on Jubilee to prove that the last 4 years have been a success. And I've looked at their manifesto. 10 of the things at the front end are spending proposals. They want to spend more money, sink us deeper into debt. Everything else that they claim on their own account, in terms of what they think are achievements, are fewer than the things that they're saying, if you take us back, we will do.
Okay.
So it means that it's a question of unfinished business. And the question Kenyans must ask is, why is the business unfinished? And this manifesto makes no reference of the previous manifesto of 2013. Where is the continuity? Where is the honesty? How do you square this with Kenyans? That's what this debate must be about. So and for NASA, they must also show that they are really capable of running government by presenting, as Miguna has said, why they think they're a cleaner, leaner outfit, and why in their ranks we have some of the grandchildren of the Moi era.
Grandchildren of the Moi era. Listen, this evening we've seen two statements actually. They came out this afternoon. One was from NASA, who basically said we're ready to come to the debate if Jubilee will come and they should stop moving goalposts. And then a short while later we saw a response from Jubilee who said NASA should stop copying them, using the phrase shoddy copycat tactics. I want to give you this statement from NASA was signed by Salim Loan, who's an advisor to NASA presidential candidate Raila Odinga. The meat was in this last sentence. NASA is still ready to take part in the proposed debates as soon as Jubilee engages in agreeing on the ground rules that President Kenyatta has used as an excuse to duck the debate, Salim Loan said, which Kenyans have come to expect as an essential platform for leaders to communicate their visions directly to the Kenyans. And that statement was titled, "It is still not too late for Jubilee to agree to presidential debates." Well, it might be almost too late now. 10 minutes to go to the 8 p.m. debate. And then a short while later, we saw a statement from the Deputy President spokesman, David Mugonyi, who said there has been no consultation to agree on ground rules such as date of debate, do's and don'ts, what is expected of participants, etc. And there has been no engagement other than an invitation letter that was sent to the Deputy President at the end of last week and said, we have made ourselves available to the media before and we will continue to do so. We can debate all and sundry, including the so-called NASA principles, all of them at one go. So that was the grandstanding against the many.
But Larry,
yes.
I'm disappointed by Salim Loan.
Why is that?
Salim Loan is an old hand. Salim Loan is very experienced. Salim Loan is usually very thoughtful. And I'm disappointed by his statement, by making it look like the debate is subject to Jubilee agreeing.
Right.
So essentially they are being subservient to Jubilee. They're saying as long as Jubilee agrees. So why do they want to take power from Jubilee if they have agreed, they have surrendered to Jubilee, or even on the issues? That if Jubilee agrees to the terms of reference, then we will attend the debate. You see, that's a defeatist attitude. That's not a team ready to take power. Now, if Salim is tired, then he should step aside and give room for somebody more vibrant.
You know what?
So I'm going to challenge my friend Salim Loan not to play this politics of yesterday, the politics of catch up. If they are really ready to take power, let them step forward, let them take charge, let them define who they are, and let Jubilee be the ones in the defensive.
But you know what I'm suspecting,
yes.
Larry? I think it's becoming increasingly clear that the leading lights in our political landscape don't know how to engage with issues. And because they don't know how to engage with issues, they cannot subject themselves to any form of accountability to the Kenyan people. Because why would anybody actually forego such an opportunity, to be able to articulate your position in terms of what you are offering as a leader, This attitude on both sides, both by NASA and by Jubilee, smacks of contempt for the voter.
Yeah.
That it doesn't matter. It's that mutadu attitude, I mean, the statement that you had read earlier on, although Miguna said we should not be listening to statements from Dennis Itumbi, but where he says that the president will be engaging with Kenyans
in their homes,
and in the markets. Are they suggesting that people who are interested in listening to debate, a sober engagement, are not Kenyans, and that those people should not be engaged with it? It is contemptuous for them to have that kind of approach. And for me, it is clear they do not understand issues-based politics. Their politics is that of division, of speaking at each other, ethnic balkanization, but they don't have a real plan. These are you get together some experts to cobble together for you a manifesto that looks like it has a plan, but in actual fact that's really just a document that you are throwing around, but they're not going to engage with those issues. It is power for the purpose of power.
I think
yes, Miu.
And with due respect to these two camps, I don't know whether they really understand the essence of a debate. Because a debate is for them to convince us. They are not doing us a favor. But from the two statements, one, you can see that thing from Itumbi. It also shows you the level of thinking. The language that comes with that statement is so shallow and so pedestrian that you'll wonder why the president should leave a person of that caliber to issue a statement on his behalf. And that's why I said we can only listen if Manoa Esipisu is giving Kenyans something from the presidency. Salim Lon, I've read him since I was young, and I think he's a man I've respected for a long time. Let him be a good advisor. Let him be a professional advisor. Let him also issue statements that speak to what NASA stands for. Because for them to be telling us that if Jubilee comes, we shall come, and if NASA is copycatting us as Jubilee, we shall not come, I think that is playing with our intellectual capacity and understanding as Kenyans. And therefore, my brief to them is that this debate is of their interests, not us. As we shall listen, Larry, we shall make a judgment, we shall vote. But I don't think, and I could be wrong because I'm not the most clever guy in Kenya, they don't seem to understand the essence of this political debate. If they did, they'll not be issuing this kind of statements because it's for their own good.
But you see, the counter-argument to this, and Raphael Tuju was speaking to me last night, the Secretary General of Jubilee, and they're painting this as something the media is doing, the media owners are doing for our own good. And he said it is arrogant of the media owners to put on a debate and expect the candidates to show up just because we advertise it.
That is what I'm saying.
So basically saying that we did not invite them, and they did not agree, like David Mugonyi says, the DP spokesman, to the rules of engagement. Where will it be? Who's moderating, etc. So they say it is arrogant of the media owners to do this without involving them.
Have we given too much clout to these two political parties or bigwigs? That's what we need to ask ourselves. Because if this is the issue, where do we draw the line? Because now the next thing could be, no, we only drink water from a specific bottle. No, I mean, when are we going to realize that they are our leaders and they pay service to the people? They work for us. So the fact that we are calling these leaders to stand in front of us and give us their manifestos or how they are going to lead this country is their opportunity. It's an opportunity. It is an interview. So when you're being called for an interview and you have the criteria to be able to lead in a specific position, you show up. Do you show up late? Or do you say, I don't drive that way. In fact, I don't like that building or that area, so I'm not going to show up. You are the one who needs to come to me at this particular time. It's no. Honestly, I thought it was disrespectful to the people, because here we are, we've given you this time, we want to listen to you, and you tell us, you know what, we were not met at the right time conveniently, so we're not going to show up. And I think that it is wrong, because it takes away...
We are going to dance at the village.
Yes, it takes away the dignity from the people. It does.
It also shows contempt for the voter.
Serious one.
I mean, serious contempt.
One.
Really. Because it's that attitude of mtadu, you know. And I think that Kenyans really need to read into this, you know. And Kenya is changing. Contrary to what they think, Kenya is changing. The dynamics of our politics has changed. Devolution has brought about new dynamics. We have seen for the first time leading lights, the political leading lights being booed when they are trying to advocate for six-piece voting, and they're like, you ask for your vote, we will vote our people here.
Okay.
So if they don't get the essence that Kenya is changing, and the debate media, the media debates presidential, the company that is doing this, has understood that Kenya is changing, and that we are trying to foster a new way of doing things. This is a different Kenya. So I think it is really their loss. The same way that the deputy presidential candidates, this has played out wrong for them. I think that they shouldn't take for granted that Kenyans will not hold this or their attitude against them.
Okay, we're going to leave it there just for the moment. We have to take a really quick break right now. This is an expensive production. We've got to pay the bill somehow. We're going to be right back.